Hi everyone, I'm Jeff Clark of the Paydirt Prospector here in beautiful Vancouver for the Metals Investor Forum here in September. And today I have with me Tara Christie, the CEO of Banyan Gold. There's a lot going on in the Yukon and there's a lot going on with Banyan Gold. So Tara, thanks for joining me for this short conversation.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Tara, we always start with people. So tell us about your background and I mean, you have a PhD in
Master's in geotechnical engineering.
Okay, but tell us about your background, because I think that's important for people to understand how it is you can lead this company and how well it's doing.
Yeah, I started in this business long time ago. Actually, when I left university, though, my dad is a geologist. And when I left university, I thought I was going to be a medical doctor. And then I went to university and I discovered, my dad's actually given me this fantastic background in all of this, and I actually love it. And so I switched into geological engineering, not pure geology, because, that was at the time when there was quite a cycle in the industry. And, people would say, well, if you do that, it might be tough to get a job because, boom, bust. And so I did a little bit more where I had some more infrastructure options with geological engineering, and then continued on with my master's. And then, through my career, I ran a very large scale alluvial mining operation. I did work in other parts of the world, including Africa and Alaska. Really focused on northern Canada, though, for most of my career. I ran a consulting business, working in environmental assessment, working in First Nations, had agreements with First Nations in Ontario. I got 11 First Nations in the Yukon to sign on to a deal early in my career related to the placer industry, which really taught me about what you need to do to make that happen. I worked for Newmont for a couple of years, and I was actually their registered lobbyist in Canada. I was working mostly on their Hope Bay projects, but also really got to learn a little bit about how that corporate thought at the time, and when we prepared the briefing notes for the board. So really broad experience, everything from having to hire HR to permitting to financing. How do I get a $2 million bulldozer and finance that? To corporate. How do the capital markets work? I started joining boards in about 2006 and sort of learned how the junior market, and then became the CEO of this company in 2016.
And all of that is really paying off for Banyan right now, that depth of experience that you have. So bring us up to date with Banyan, because it's not a company that's been around forever, and yet you've grown it to over 7 million ounces now. So give us a little bit of the story of Banyan.
Sure. Well, I joined the board back in 2012, along with another asset. And then flash forward 3 other CEOs, 2016. I had a bunch of personal successes and had basically lost 3 jobs successfully. So we were trying to hire a new CEO for Banyan. I'm like, well, I should do this. And then, the asset that we had at the time really wasn't going to get any market traction. And I knew about AurMac, actually, because I purchased an estate that had all the overlying placer deposits on top of it, which I still own. In 2013, the estate had multiple mining projects in it, and this was just one of it. And if there's gold in the surface, what's in the bedrock? So then I set off to acquire the 2 properties, which I did by 2017, and we made our discovery in 2019. So between 2019 and 2024, we developed our 7 million ounce resource. So that's a pretty rapid journey.
That's quite a story. So, Tara, talk about the grade of the deposit. Some people might look at that and say, it's low grade, but it's really, the recoveries you've been getting have been fantastic. So that's making this more and more and more likely to be a mine someday. Am I right in that assessment?
Yeah, so the overall resource is 7 million ounces of 0.63, which is very similar to what Victoria Gold has down the road. It is, it has been shown to be economic at other mines, even in Nevada at a 0.3 cutoff. But if you look on our website, you can see our video where we demonstrate a visualization of the 0.6 cutoff and the 0.9 cutoff, where you have 4 million ounces of 1 gram, and you can see the distribution of them across the deposit, and 2.4 million ounces of 1.45. So both of those, when we superimposed those, and we also looked at our scoping studies where the pits would be, we think we can see 2 million ounces of a gram, maybe with a sweetener in that 2 million of 400,000 or 500,000 ounces of 1.4 or better, which I think will really drive the economics of this. And remember, this mineralization starts from surface and then the recoveries. So one, low strip ratio, easy topography, roads and power already on the property, even cell phone service, and then a deposit where we think there's that core that's going to give you the payback that you need. And that's what we're drilling out this year.
Right, and this thing could get a lot even bigger, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're still drilling. A lot of that's going to be definition drilling, I assume, but some of that's going to be exploration and actually expanding this 7 million ounce deposit. Is that right?
So when we went into this year, I asked my team, okay, what are the things we could do? And one of them was, drill out this portion to indicator where we see the economic project, really give people confidence in our geological model, which is really important. We heard that from the corporates. But we also heard, drill it out to 10 million. That's not too big. So my team prepared, here's the drill plan that we would do to drill it out to 10 million for within 200 meters of surface. So both were options when we came into this year. And we listened at conferences like Beaver Creek and Denver, where you get those corporates who are talking to you and saying, what would you do and what's the most important? And we heard that confidence in our geological model, that first, where's your mine plan? Show us that this model really does hang together was important because people could already see the expansion to 10 million. And if you drilled at surface or at depth, we drilled that 650 meter hole and is mineralized all the way down. We drilled through 400 meters of power line, 250 meters. So this thing, we know it's got some deep roots. So we are going to drill some of those blue sky holes to look for where the intrusion might be, but we're going to wait till next year because we commissioned 2 geophysical products, one a 3D geophysical survey and 2 a ZTEM survey, and they're both late. So we might as well wait for those products now, and the final products use that along with what we know from this year's drill program. We're funded to drill next year. So let's finish up what we need to do to show we've got an economic project and the metallurgy, and then start drilling again and be funded for 8,000 to 10,000 meters next year, funded for our PEA. I think we're in a pretty unique position. And
you're in a great spot. You really are. Now, we can't talk about Banyan without talking about the Yukon. So a lot's been happening there since the heap leach failure at Victoria Gold. I'm glad everybody was safe and all that. But that's affected the territory a little bit. The government's got involved. That company went into receivership. But things are turning around, and the government's actually being supportive now. How do you see that as affecting Banyan Gold?
Well, obviously, it had an impact on all of the Yukon companies' share prices, including ours. We've certainly almost recovered to that. We were within 2 cents of our that share price and the back end of our financing recently. So we've seen that continue to improve. Yes, we've heard positive things from the Yukon government that they want to see the mine back into production, which will mean there will be heap leaching and projects in the Yukon. We're not looking like our best met option is actually a heap leach when you look at what we've put out recently. So, that's all positive. We also heard this morning the $40 million federal government announcement towards connecting the grid to the BC grid, which is super important for more power into the grid for all the mining projects. So that's a really positive move as well. So I think we're going to see things in the Yukon recover fairly quickly now that things are resolved and people understand the scale of what happened down the road from us. Actually, it was 2 million tons that is off the pad. Remember, they mined 3 million tons a month. So that's not a big amount of work from the other side of the valley and put it on the heap leach. So to pick it up from right underneath and put it back on the heap leach pad isn't that big of an engineering exercise. Anyway.
That's great. Well, as we wrap up here, Terry, you spoke at the conference here. What is the takeaway? What do you want investors to know about Banyan Gold here going forward?
Well, I think that your slides were really interesting, and I hope people watch your talk because I think, looking at the potential gains and everyone's, where's the trigger for the juniors where people are going to start to put some love into it. And I think we are seeing some of it. We've seen our share price recover, but the opportunities with real projects, with look for projects with good management, infrastructure like we have, sizable resources, and a very clear value add plan. And enough money to get them through the next while so you're not vulnerable, because it might be next week and maybe we've started to see it, but it might be a little bit longer. But I think you showed how much cash the majors have, and we all know, and it's getting larger, they are going to have to reinvest. So it's coming.
But you have a lot of catalysts coming ahead. I mean, in the next 6 to 12 months, just real quick, big catalyst. What do you have coming at Banyan Gold?
So we've drilled 20,000 meters. We've only released like 1,200 meters of holes. So lots of news flow. So drill results all the way into the new year. Met results, we put out that 93% from CIO and gravity. We'll have some gravity flotation. We'll have some additional work, which will go to capital costs as well as operating costs and recovery. So we'll continue to see that. We'll put out a new resource once we get all the data in, May, June next year. We'll start drilling in May, June next year. And we've got a full drill season position with the money we have in the bank,
Yeah,
in
that's
addition
great.
to our revenue, which we briefly talked about earlier today, which is unique. You know, we made $1.5 million. We'll make some more money next year, maybe not quite as much, but every dollar helps. And we're
Oh,
really
yeah.
focused. We've never had a better technical year than this year. So those storm clouds have been there, but we've really had our head down and working hard to add value. So I think it's going to be a great year. I'm really excited about what this year and 2025 are going to bring for Banyan.
That's great. I am too. And I am a shareholder of Banyan Gold. I suggest you check it out, do your own due diligence. I'm here with Tara Christie at the Metals Investor Forum. Thanks for watching.